Should F1 get rid of Friday practice? F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali was at the MotoGP this weekend. How dare he cheat on us? He spoke to the Portuguese channel Sport TV, and he's quoted as saying, "I am in favour of cancelling the practice sessions that are of great benefit to the engineers, but which the public does not like." Big assumption there, Tommy, I would say. And before we dive into your opinion, because I know you're going to go on a serious washed rant, is that we asked the YouTube community, you beautiful people, and 37,000 of you voted, and a massive 86% said no to getting rid of Friday practice.
The hardcore regular Formula One watchers and P1 community think that Domenicali is washed. 86% is a big favour. They love their Friday practice.
Big no, isn't it, from the people that voted. Thank you for getting involved in our YouTube community poll. But I would also argue, as you just kind of hinted to there, these are the hardcores. These are the ones that usually watch every single race, very integrated with the sports, having a great time. Stefano Domenicali is appealing to the wide population, the casual that watches Formula One, and you'd have to say the casuals are what makes up most of the viewing figures. Right, let's dive into what the pros and cons are of practice, shall we, Tommy? So I won't ask you what the pros are because I don't think you're going to say any, are you?
No, there are some pros. I guess it's one of those sessions where people that are at the circuit get to watch the cars probably for a fraction of the price if you just get a Friday ticket, because, and you could argue, maybe even more action because there's lots of cars going out all the time for a long time, and the combined practice sessions are longer than a race. So you do get good value for money there when you're at the circuit. But so that's a pro. The cons are obviously the fact that more casuals won't be that interested. It's not a particularly interesting thing, but then you'll argue that it's not meant to be interesting. It's meant to be gathering data. It's like testing that we did recently where wasn't particularly interesting, but we were just happy to see Formula One cars back on our screen. And I think the main con, and something that Domenicali mentions in his statement about engineers, is that they get to spend a long amount of time tweaking every little bit. So the car's absolutely perfect. They've done race simulations, so they know exactly what lap they're going to pit most of the time, exactly who's going to come in, exactly when X tyre is going to go off. And then they just have this race simulation, and then you could argue that the races become more predictable.
Okay, my pros of having practice are of the similar sort of level here. When I look at what Stefano Domenicali is saying of getting rid of practice sessions, I'm like, well, what happens on a Friday then? If we don't have practice sessions, what are they going to fill the time with? And unless it is a kart race for 3 hours for a bit of bants around the Formula One circuit of that choice, then I'm not interested. What are they going to fill it with? That can't just disappear and we just have a Saturday, Sunday Formula One weekend, because it just won't be viable for Formula One as a business or for the circuits that want to get involved with it. Obviously, it was just probably just a casual chat that Stefano's now going, oh God, I wish I'd not said this, because it it has opened a can of worms, and I'm sure he knows that he can't just get rid of it. We can't just appeal to the general public all the time and be like, what would a casual like? Because that's just not the way Formula One should go. And also as well, I guess another pro of it is the fact that Formula One remains this pinnacle of motorsport. If we get rid of all practice and the teams don't know what they're doing going into qualifying in the race, yes, it could be more exciting because they don't know what strategy to do and whatnot. But isn't that kind of against what the whole point of Formula One is that it's, these cars are tuned to a level where they can get the most out of them? I don't know. Maybe this is just because I've watched it for so many years. There's so many different routes that you could go down with this. If I now flip to the cons of having practice, it is having the car so fine-tuned that they know what they're doing. So on one side you're going, well, what is Formula One, essentially? What route do you want to take Formula One down? Is it just purely entertainment? Because if that's the case, scrap practice, or have practice, but it's qualifying every single time and you can score points if you go fast or whatever, because if it is just purely entertainment, then that's the route they should go down, where there's always something to play for. But if it is a sport first, then they shouldn't worry so much about that, and they should allow for what Formula One has been for so many years. So it is a really difficult decision to make. I do personally like the odd sprint race weekend, but I'm so set in my ways of what Formula One is that I didn't mind it as 3. I think 6 is pushing it, because then that's pushing towards what I think is entertainment first rather than the sport. It's such a difficult topic.
It is a very difficult topic, because maybe it's just a case of there's so much content now out there, and every time a Formula One car is out on track, should it be this entertaining thing where there's something to play for, or are you allowed to just have sessions that exist that don't mean anything?
We are doing a live show on the 6th of April at the Leicester Square Theatre. That's right, we are going to be doing an actual show on a theatre stage. We're going to be doing a meet and greet with all of you. We're going to be getting interactive during this show. It's not just any normal, watch a podcast and that's it. Oh no, if you get a ticket and come and see us, we will make sure that you are involved in almost every step of the way of the show. So what are you waiting for? The link is in the description where you can check out a bit more information. Myself and Tommy would love to see you there. Would love to meet you and spend a bit of time. I cannot wait, and hopefully we'll see you there. What would the perfect race weekend format be? So this one is from Kenny_Laminer. FP1, 90 minutes, Friday morning. FP2, 90 minutes, Friday afternoon. FP3, 60 minutes, Saturday morning. Qualifying, 60 minutes, Saturday afternoon, which gets 12 laps per driver. And then there's a warm-up on the Sunday for 30 minutes. And then on the Sunday, the race. I'm not a fan of this one. This is an olden days one, isn't it, Tommy?
Yeah, this is when I first started watching. There was
1957, was it? Oh.
Not far off. That's a lot of running, which is great for the general public. It's not great for Charles Leclerc's engine parts. Sorry, Matt.
Why did you? That was. I was not ready for that. Where did that even come from? Next one comes in from Icy Josh. I like how it is now. Seeing practice results builds up hype and expectations for quali and the race itself. Now, this is a good point, actually, that I haven't really mentioned, or you haven't mentioned either, Tommy. It is the teasing before the real thing. People go, you watch practice, and I guess rather than everything is something to play for, where it's just constant dopamine, and you're like, wow, we're playing for something now, I think that'll get very boring in a year's time when you just expect something to happen all the time, whereas practice does lead up to qualifying in the race as being this big Saturday and a big Sunday. I actually completely agree with this, and I think that is one thing that people maybe don't or realise until it goes away, that actually this tease is really good for the Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, it's always nice on a Friday to see that Max Verstappen is 2 seconds quicker than everyone, so we know what to expect on a Saturday. No, I'm joking. This is the.
You sound like a salty Ferrari fan, but you've literally got a Max cape in your background.
Well, but this is the thing. This is why I don't like practice, because I would argue the opposite to that. Here you go, all the people that like us to disagree. That you get, say we have a situation where, this team are good this weekend. You kind of, I know it builds up, but maybe it misses that shock of us going straight into qualifying, and it's like, oh my god, this team are really good. So it does build up the weekend, and I can see where they're coming from, but then it's just a lot of running and a lot of sessions that kind of revealing the order, and it's just giving them more and more time to tweak the pecking order to be exactly how it should be, with all this time, rather than maybe throwing a few curveballs into the mix.
All right, we'll do one more. We're from Formula Sophie, who says, I really like the F2 format with a reverse top 10 sprint, but maybe an extra practice session too, like an F1 sprint weekend. Practice and quali Friday, practice and sprint Saturday, and race Sunday. Now, with Formula One being in this experimental phase, I don't know why they haven't tried the Formula 2 format. Maybe it's because they don't want to look like they're going to a feeder series and taking ideas, and they're Formula One. They're always being very big with their ideas. They couldn't possibly go and copy Formula 2. Whereas I'm not against them trying the Formula 2 format. Absolutely not. Especially now that they've tweaked it back to a good Formula 2 format. So try it. I would absolutely watch that.
The reverse grids are something to be said, because if we're going back to this whole Red Bull dominant thing, you watched literally the last race, Max started 15th, and you knew he was still going to come through the field, and you kind of had that excitement there. Whereas if he starts second or first, you know he's going to win the race unless his car breaks down. So Formula One is a unique sport. And this is something I've always thought about, that while qualifying is traditional and it's this thing that's lasted forever, it does, you could argue, give, well, it's not an unfair advantage because they literally have the fastest car and then they qualify, but you're kind of giving a head start to the people that are already quicker.
Now let's move to, what would our perfect weekend format be from Friday to Sunday? Friday, 60-minute FP1, and for FP2, 60-minute kart race around the track.
I like that.
Look, they can still get to know all the bumps and whatnot, but not in their own car. Okay?
It's just to finally shut up Twitter and who the best driver is, and we'll just know because they're in cars.
Exactly. And can you imagine seeing a kart going up like Eau Rouge or something? That'd be quite something. They'd need a quite powerful car, otherwise it might just roll back down. But realistically, I think 60-minute FP1, 60-minute FP2. Sorry. Saturday, Q1 and Q2 the same. Q3, one-shot qualifying. 10th goes out first. First goes out last. And yes, weather might play a factor, but get over it. That's all I'm going to say to that one. I made that up about 10 minutes ago before the podcast started, and I was actually like, oh, I quite like that. And then Sunday, a 24-hour race. And when you run out of fuel, you have to run. Yeah.
I mean, that justifies the ticket prices these days, doesn't it?
Yeah. But no, a normal race. I don't think the format is too far away from being perfect anyway, but I think spicing up quali, maybe with just that tiny tweak, might be quite nice. Tommy.
Yeah, this is... So you've kind of gone for almost the same, but a little tweak. I mean, looking at all the people that have messaged in, no one can agree. And I'm going to have a really... I will do my perfect answer, but I thought about this for a lot, and I just keep changing my mind, and I think that just shows that there is no perfect solution. Okay, 9 sprints, sprint weekends. 5 of them are where you reverse the top 10.
Does that not make Formula One incredibly confusing when you have 3 different formats to keep up with? And if you're a casual fan and you're like, wait, why is Verstappen starting 10th in this race this time? Oh, it's one of the sprint reverse ones rather than the sprint normal one. And it's definitely not a real full race weekend one. What's your argument to that?
Then you should know wheel. They'll always have that problem, but I'd argue that F1's a complicated sport anyway.
Right, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Tommy. And we'll see you very soon for more content. Australian Grand Prix coming. So look forward to that. We'll be live on Twitch on Saturday and on Sunday at the god-awful time of 5:30 in the morning where we are. But look, we're not going to complain because you're amazing. If you're an Australian fan in particular, you are incredible. And we'll see you very soon. Bye!
Bye.